After getting her passport photo taken, Ri nervously suggested that she and Jeong-hyeok must take a picture together as a memento, to which Jeong-hyeok replied to her that they had no reason to remember each other. Ri pouted on his comment, and she stomped out of the studio. However, when she left, Jeong-hyeok asked the photographer for an extra photo of her. Later at the hotel, Sung-joon spotted Ri and quickly pulled her into an elevator. Jeong-hyeok saw them and followed them to the elevator and immediately shoved Sung-joon against the wall. Ri said she knows Sung-joon, but Jeong-hyeok still tries to twist Sung-joon's arm off. To release the tension, Ri told Sung-joon that Jeong-hyeok was her bodyguard. The look on Jeong-hyeok's face was absolutely hilarious. When they finally got out of the elevator, Jeong-hyeok continued to glare at Sung-joon. He then asked Ri what she was doing in a place like North Korea. She was surprised he had not heard about her disappearance, and he did not mention that her brother Seo had told him that she was dead. Hearing Seo-hyung's men approaching, he quickly made plan to meet her later in the hotel's coffee shop. Before leaving, he tipped Jeong-hyeok for being a good bodyguard. Jeong-hyeok then turned his glare on Ri. She explained to him that she didn't lie exactly as he was apparently behaving like her bodyguard. Jeong-hyeok corrected her that he was not her bodyguard. He was just keeping an eye on her, but as he said this, he was simultaneously shielding her from people walking by and even blocking a child's stray ball. Ri smirked and told him that he was exactly acting like her bodyguard. After that at coffee, he asked her how she knew Sung-joon. She said to explain that he had to know about her family. She told him that she was from a very rich family, which means that everything in her life was treated like a business deal. She explained that her relationship with her brothers was very competitive and that they had introduced her to Sung-joon, who was a foreigner, in an attempt to marry her off and get her to leave the country. She mused that her brothers must be thrilled to know that she was dead. But Jeong-hyeok told her that even if they did not get along, they must feel bad that she was gone, to which Ri gave him a sad smile. Meanwhile, a woman saw Jeong-hyeok with Ri and called Dan to report it. Dan pretended like it was no big deal, but after hanging up, she told her mother to set up a dinner with Jeong-hyeok's parents at the Pyongyang hotel that very night. After that, as they both entered the room, he located and disabled several hidden surveillance bugs and told her that every room in this hotel had them. He was staying in the next room and told her not to call him unless it was a real emergency. He warned her to keep a low profile if she wanted their escape plan to work. When she whined that she naturally stood out among the common people, he told her to get a nap as she was talking nonsense. Ri got an idea to ask Sung-joon for help, thinking he could either help her leave the country or at least contact her family, since she believed he was just there on business and would be returning home soon. Ri said it must have been destiny that she and Sung-joon found each other in North Korea, which made Jeong-hyeok scoff. He argued that, just for example, he was the one who found her after she fell. Then even after she ran away, she still ended up right in front of his house. He immediately started backpedaling when Ri asked him in a cute voice if he wanted to be her destiny. Meanwhile, Dan went to the hotel and used one of her contacts to get Jeong-hyeok's room number. She was not happy to see him stepping out of Ri's room. She told him she had received a tip and came to see if it was true. Ri tried to explain that they were staying in separate rooms, but Dan snapped back that she had not asked her for an explanation. At the same time Sung-joon was being chased through the hotel by John and Seo-hyung's men, he eventually got trapped on the roof. John had Seo-hyung on the phone, and Sung-joon asked for mercy, but Seo-hyung was not willing to forgive him until he revealed that he had seen Ri alive. Sung-joon then offered a deal that he would return half of the stolen money and keep the other half in exchange for information on Ri's whereabouts. This deal earned Sung-joon his freedom, at least for the moment. He was still standing on the roof when Dan arrived, and she told him coldly to go find a higher roof if you want to jump. Sung-joon guessed that Dan was up there to mull over her guy. In that rare moment of openness, she admitted that he was right and that she had just found her fiancé with another woman. He advised her not to be too bothered by it, because men do not want to stay with someone who gets upset by them. Dan asked him what he was doing on a roof, to which he replied that he was having money trouble. She offered him similar advice and told him that money comes to those who ignore it and runs from those who chase it. They finally exchanged names and had a handshake. Later, as Ri and Jeong-hyeok headed downstairs for their separate dates, Ri joked that Jeong-hyeok seemed unharmed by Dan's laser-like glare. She assured him that Sung-joon was not a dangerous person, but still Jeong-hyeok warned her to stay alert, because even trusted people can stab in the back. Ri teased him for having what she called an in love and worried expression, which prompted him to check her forehead to see if she was having a fever. Dan was greatly alarmed when her mother showed up for the dinner with Jeong-hyeok's family, wearing a lot of makeup and with her huge bouffant hairstyle. Her mother said she was ready for war and would not let Jeong-hyeok's parents have the upper hand anymore, just because she was a widow. Sung-joon told Ri a made-up story that he is doing market research in Pyongyang for a high-profile investor. She immediately called it out as a lie. She told him she only cared about the money he had on from her brother, to which he replied, since she had gone missing, that there was a big misunderstanding which has been now cleared up. Over there, the dinner between the two families was incredibly awkward. Dan's mother kept making comments about how her daughter was getting older and still wasn't married. She grumbled that she had agreed to delay the wedding 7 years ago so the family could mourn after Moo-hyuk's death, but now it had been far too long. Director Ri Jeong-hyeok's father suggested they finally hold the wedding at the end of the next month. He said he would have Jeong-hyeok transfer to a post in Pyongyang and set the newlyweds up in their own house. Dan's mother was thrilled by this and immediately offered to supply them with all new appliances. Jeong-hyeok quietly agreed to everything, but Dan did not say a single word. Later, Dan ran into Se-ri in the ladies' room. She called Se-ri slutty for going to a hotel with one man and having coffee with another. Se-ri just grinned and replied that she had already had coffee with Jeong-hyeok earlier that day. Dan fired back that she and Jeong-hyeok had just set a wedding date. When Se-ri said she would be long gone by then, Dan sneered that her absence would be the best wedding gift ever. Earlier, while Sung-joon was talking with Se-ri, John had taken a photo of her and sent it to Se-hyung as proof they had found her. When Se-hyung saw the picture, he immediately accused Sung-joon of finding someone else who looked like his sister. So when Se-ri returned to the lounge, Sung-joon left his phone open so that Se-hyung could hear her voice for himself. When they go for a walk after leaving the hotel, Sung-joon was holding his phone so that Se-hyung could listen. He asked Se-ri how she ended up in North Korea, but she said she could not talk about it yet and would tell everything once she was back in Seoul. She asked Sung-joon to tell her father she was alive when he returned back to South Korea and to continue upcoming shareholders meeting as planned. Sung-joon promised her he would, even though he knew he wasn't going back. As the parents were leaving the restaurant, Jeong-hyeok spotted Se-ri and Sung-joon walking together. He immediately began following them from the other side of the street. After a while, he lost sight of them and got worried. Meanwhile, Se-ri and Sung-joon saw a woman being publicly scolded for wearing a skirt that was too short. They marveled that such a thing really happened here. Their smiles faded when they were stopped and asked why they weren't wearing the mandatory portrait pin of the nation's leader. Sung-joon quickly showed his British ID and pretended not to speak Korean, which successfully made the man go away. Just then, Jeong-hyeok caught them and told Se-ri in a tough tone to come with him. She agreed to go back to the hotel with him. He was very upset, complaining that he could not possibly protect her unless she stayed where he could see her. They stopped at a bar for beer and fried chicken. While they were drinking, all the lights suddenly went out. The staff started handing out candles to the customers, who didn't seem worried at all, as if this happened all the time. Luckily, the lights came back on quickly. Se-ri noticed it had started snowing outside. She told Jeong-hyeok that where she was from, people believe that if you were with someone during the first snow of the year, you were destined to fall in love. Jeong-hyeok just sighed and said it would be a huge mess if that ever happened between the two of them. Se-ri asked him grumpily if that was because he was supposed to be with Dan instead. Jeong-hyeok asked her if she was bipolar because he could never tell what she really wanted. Se-ri admitted that sometimes she didn't understand herself either. Feeling tired and a little drunk, she laid her head on Jeong-hyeok's shoulder. When he tried to push her away, she lightly punched him and said her head felt heavy because she had so much on her mind. Jeong-hyeok told her that she was going home soon, so she should be happy about it. She replied that being happy about it was the whole problem, and it seemed she was no longer just talking about going home. At that same moment, back in Seoul, Secretary Hong and Soo-chan were also having fried chicken and beer while watching the snow. They had just given the police the proof that Se-ri was alive. Soo-chan was excited, thinking Se-ri would be home soon, but Secretary Hong admitted he hoped she wouldn't come back too quickly, since he had been enjoying his unexpected vacation. Meanwhile, Se-hyung and his wife Sang-ah met with Mr. Oh, Sung-joon's partner in Seoul. They told him to make sure Se-ri never returned from North Korea. They didn't say the words directly, but they heavily implied they wanted her dead. At the same time, John told Sung-joon that as long as Se-ri never made it back to South Korea, Se-hyung will forget about all the money he was scammed. In a separate location, Officer Cho Chul-kong was being questioned at the State Security Department about the suspicious truck accidents. He seemed completely unconcerned. He even called his interrogator by name, which he wasn't supposed to know. He mentioned the fancy apartment the interrogator's daughter had received when she got married. Chul-kong revealed that he had sold his own valuable antiques to pay for it, and that he had done similar favors for officers even higher up the chain of command. He was released immediately. The senior colonel was waiting for him outside. Chul-kong told the colonel that he had taken care of him when he was an orphan and had helped him get to his high position today. day. Because of that, Chol-kong promised he would stay loyal to him no matter what happened. He then stopped by to check on Sung-joon, who showed him a photo of Se-ri. Sung-joon said that she was a friend from a very wealthy South Korean family. Chol-kong told him Se-ri's plan to leave the country in just a few days. Worried about his own safety, Sung-joon told Chol-kong to make sure that she never gets back to her home. Meanwhile, Se-ri told the village wives that she was leaving Yoon-hyuk because of Dan. She made it sound like a grand tragic decision, saying she didn't want to cause Yoon-hyuk any more pain by staying. She said dramatically that even though they would be apart, their love forever will be engraved on their hearts. All the women were moved to tears by her performance. Wool-suk hugged Se-ri and said they probably would have broken up eventually anyway, because their personalities were just too different. She added that Se-ri wasn't really the kind of woman that in-laws tend to like. Se-ri got offended at that comment. Wool-suk called her out for acting sweet, but always talking back. Soon the two of them were fighting over who got to storm out of the room first in a huff. Chol-kong took the photo of Se-ri to Man-bok, who had never seen her face before. He told Man-bok that he had been asked to make sure she never left North Korea. This way, he explained, he would be making money and finally getting rid of a problem, all thanks to the information Man-bok had provided. Later, the soldiers came over for ramyun again. Se-ri told them that this time, she was really leaving and that she wanted to go on one last picnic with them, to which Chi-soo obviously complained, but he still ended up pulling the cart that was piled up with all their picnic supplies. Se-ri was surprised to see they were bringing shovels and axes along. Chi-soo told her he would regret for the rest of his life that he was sending her back in one piece instead of just burying her here. She asked where Yoon-hyuk and Eun-dong were. Eun-dong was already up ahead, starting a fire, but Yoon-hyuk had only said he had something to take care of. When they caught up to Eun-dong, Se-ri grinned at the baby pig he had with him, until she learned that the pig was meant to be their lunch. She immediately complained that she could not possibly eat it since she had made eye contact with it. So the little pig was spared, and the guys ended up catching fishes and crabs from the river. After their feast, Chi-soo stood up to recite a poem he had written for Se-ri. He said that when you hammer a nail, the nail goes into the wall. When the wind blows, a persimmon falls from the branch. But this woman does whatever she wants. She didn't die when we fired a gun at her. When we criticize her, it doesn't affect her. What a troublemaker. But since you are leaving soon, please do me this favor. Be well. Don't get hurt. Live a good life. Don't forget us. And if you're caught, don't you dare tell them my name. His funny and heartfelt poem made them all feel sad. So, Eun-dong asked Se-ri to sing a song for them. As she sang a song about separating from someone you care about, Yoon-hyuk finally arrived, and they exchanged a long, sad look. Early in the morning, Yoon-hyuk sent Se-ri to the airport with Kwang-bum, saying it would be better for them to say their goodbyes right there in the village. Se-ri admitted that she will miss him, and it make her feel sad to know that they will never be able to see each other again. Yoon-hyuk told her that he hopes she forgets all about him as soon as she left and live happy in her own world. He held out his hand for a handshake. Se-ri asked him for a hug instead, but he kept his hand outstretched. So she sadly shook it. In his bunker, Man-bok listened to their heartbreaking farewell. When Kwang-bum and Se-ri finally drove away, he did his duty and called Chol-kong to report that they had left. But after he hung up the phone, he dropped his head onto his desk and sobbed. As the sun rose, Kwang-bum and Se-ri were driving down a remote road when Kwang-bum noticed a large, armored KAMAZ truck coming up fast behind them, as if it was trying to ram them. He had to swerve to avoid it, and then they realized with horror that there was another KAMAZ truck blocking the road in front of them. Suddenly, a motorcycle zoomed past them on the side of the road. The rider pulled out a gun and shot out the tires of the truck that was about to hit them head-on. Someone in the first truck started shooting back. The KAMAZ truck slammed into the vehicle, making Kwang-bum swerve violently before he slammed on the brakes. A second KAMAZ truck was now approaching. Kwang-bum yelled at Se-ri to get out of the car. Just then, the motorcycle passed them again, and as the rider took off his helmet, Se-ri saw that it was Yoon-hyuk. He deliberately laid down his bike, pulled a pistol, and started shooting at the oncoming truck. He stood his ground, not moving an inch even as the truck skidded to a stop just a few feet away from him. The truck hit the motorcycle, which exploded in a huge fireball. Se-ri ran to Yoon-hyuk, frantic to see if he was okay. As Yoon-hyuk saw the driver of the KAMAZ truck, he grabbed Se-ri and swung her around and got shot in the back. Kwang-bum tried to shoot the driver but was shot in the leg. Yoon-hyuk stayed conscious enough to fire back and kill the driver before he finally passed out into Se-ri's arms. In conclusion, when everyone else was enjoying the picnic, Yoon-hyuk stayed behind. He was busy fixing up a motorcycle, adding special equipment that would make it go much faster than normal. He also went to the army storage and checked out a huge number of weapons. He took so many that the soldier in charge looked worried and asked him if everything was okay. On the morning Se-ri was supposed to leave, Yoon-hyuk set out ahead of her. He had already explained to Kwang-bum what might happen during the trip. As he followed Se-ri's vehicle from a distance, staying out of sight, he thought about the promise he had made to her. He had promised that as long as she was in his sight, he would protect her, and he was determined to keep that promise no matter what.